Yeah.
Have a seat. We're ready for you.
Did you like that nice plug I gave? We're live broadcast from the Red Rhino Hospitality Room tonight.
This is
See
Mr.
that? There
Mr.
you
Red
go.
Rhino himself.
There's Mr. Red Rhino himself, Steve Hauser, the president of the NFA. This very, very. Can you get me one, Steve? We're just thinking about that. And it was so good to. We thank you for letting us set up here. Number one, that was awesome, and also it's a nice turnout you got going on here. You know, let's turn Steve up. You got to turn his mic up.
It is.
It's up. It's up. Okay, good.
Oh yeah.
There you go. I can hear you now. Yeah, nice turnout you got going on here. I see all those items right there on them tables. You're going to demo tomorrow. Is your demo?
No, not tomorrow. We've got the Texas Outlaw demo is on Thursday.
On Thursday, okay.
And then the Red Rhino demo's on Friday.
On
But
Friday.
what we have in the hospitality room is if people bring their shoot sheets in, which we put in the bags when they got to registration, they can actually go through the shoot sheet and look at
see
the
what you got
items
going
in
on here.
advance and look at the labels and learn a little bit more about the product.
Now, a good thing to do, you know, for anyone coming in, should take their phone and do a nice little video going down the line. I've done it for years in China. So I can refer back to number one, number two, just see what the cake looks like. Not that we have labels there, but here you got labels. So you can see what labels you think might sell. And you got everything right here. So the nice video of that whole table can sure help the demo, you know, when they're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we have the pictures on the demo, but, you know, black and white pictures, sometimes it's kind of hard to get the full meaning of the label and everything like that. So,
well, you bringing up the point about China. When you're in China with your phone and doing that, I do the same thing because you see so many every night. You get these things and you got an anonymous cardboard box and you're like, what does it look like? What's the physical shape?
I want to see the physical shape.
Or straight or
right. Yeah, absolutely.
Can only take so many notes, and they got good descriptions, but I like to write my own, you know. And, you know, the demos here at NFA, it's a little bit hard to take notes, and we apologize for that, but we are on a time limit, you know. So the demos have to move it along at a pretty fast pace. Tonight we lost a couple items on a couple different demos as we ran out of time. So hopefully, you know, we can speed it up tomorrow. If I know what I'm doing announcing, I try and speed it up because I know that we don't want to run out of time. And you know,
it is tough. We hate to run out of time on any of those things. But you know, part of what it is you know we have our expos in the fall, so schools are in session. You know, kids are sleeping. Or trying to. And we have to, you know, be respectful visitors, and you know, we can't blow things up all night long.
No.
Although as much as we would like to.
Oh yeah. Well, we could blow things up all night long, but we probably shouldn't.
Well, I don't know about we might have stuff now to blow up all night long, but in July we had a couple sparklers left. That was about it. Yeah, we had barely enough to stay up to 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah. We don't know. We might better retrace that.
You want to know what I had? Punk.
There you
go.
One
punk.
That's it.
That's
all I had.
Yep.
That's all I had to sell.
The one punk.
Yeah, so we couldn't have blew up anything on the 4th of July, that's for sure.
It was real problematic, you know, that you know, that whole delivery problem was very, very tough. And, you know, at the NFA, we saw that coming. I mean, I saw it just from an importer, you know, side from what I do in my own life. But, you know, in March, we went to, we reached out to the government. We wrote that letter to the NFA, and we had the members sign it.
Right.
We got, oh gosh, I want to say it was 600-700 signatures at least on the letter to Pete Buttigieg. And out of that came the meeting with the FMC, the Federal Maritime Commission.
Okay.
And we had also, the NFA had worked on a side, you know, line in trying to get a hold of the ports out in California. And serendipitous as it was, we had
big word there, John.
We had conference calls on the same day, an hour and a half apart. The first one was with the commissioner, with one of the commissioners of the Federal Maritime Commission. And as we got towards the end of the call, we were chit-chatting with her. We said, well, you know, she's, you know, you're going through the gratuitous comments of thank you. You know, we really enjoyed this. And it was a good call with her. And she gave us a lot of good information. And we said, well, you know, thank you for being with us. We do have to move on to another conference call. She said, well, who are you getting ready to talk to? And we said, well, we're actually getting ready to talk to the Port of Long Beach. And she's like, oh, that's awesome. She says, when you're on that call, she says, are you talking to, so-and-so? And we said, well, I don't think it's him, but it's all the people under him. She goes, well, he's one of my best friends. She goes, he's amazing. He's a wonderful guy. So it was like, oh, this is going to be great, because we got off the phone call with her, and then we got on the phone call with the port, and we said, yeah, we just got off the phone with.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
And they're like, oh.
It's always good to name drop like that.
They're
That's
like,
good.
this is real stuff here.
Yes.
That's how Johnny got to where he is, name dropping.
Name dropping, yeah,
Absolutely.
And the staff of the Port of Long Beach, through the whole process, they were great. I mean, we had a team. They had assigned us at the end of the call. We told them what we were looking for, and then by early April, they had actually assembled a 4-person team that was basically, from the beginning to the end of their process of clearing a container through the port.
Right.
Yeah.
And they said, here's your team. And they said, so what you're going to do is, we had said, well, what do you want from us to make this program work? And they said, well, here's exactly the spreadsheet. Here's the information we want from you. We said, okay, we'll put that out to the members of the NFA, and we'll say, hey, turn in this information, and then we will organize it, and we'll send it to the port directly. We've got a dedicated group that is looking for this information from us, and they wanted to know what was coming in so they could plan for it ahead of time.
Yeah.
They knew that they had a problem at the port with what was already there. That was problem number one. Problem number two was, okay, now we got all this other stuff coming in.
They don't know what's
How
behind
do we
it.
feed that through the system too?
Yeah.
Because stuff was stacking up.
Oh, God.
I mean, it was terrible.
Yeah, I was there in April. I visually saw it in April. It was terrible.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was really bad.
Is it still stacking up?
Yes.
It is. There's so many goods coming into America.
Right.
And there's not enough. The whole system's still out of whack.
Yeah.
I always try to explain it to people. I said, think of the global transportation system as a domino train.
Yep.
Okay, you've seen those.
Yep.
Right.
Where like in a high school auditorium or something,
Yeah.
they set you one domino. They set these things up over weeks.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
It's
And
incredible
they're
to watch
incredibly
'em.
complex. I mean, when they push the first domino over, it almost looks like water. It
Yeah,
flows
yeah.
so smooth. Well, and I tell people, I said, so that's the global transportation system pre-COVID. All right,
Yes.
now you're in that high school gymnasium. Here comes this guy out of the corner with a push broom,
Yeah.
and he runs right through the middle of the dang thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's janitor COVID.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And now what's happened is the whole thing stopped everywhere on all those other levels. And now everybody is running out there trying to set all these dominoes back up to get this thing going again. And we're still suffering through that.
Oh, it's not going to. I think we're going to see a bigger problem this year than we saw last year, with the new increases and all that. We're going to see.
Well, yeah.
Nobody. I don't know. I mean, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn when I say that. I don't think there's a company, whether it be yours, mine, or anybody else's, that has the money they need to import the variety that we would like to. And the quantity that we would like to.
Just because of the shipping costs.
And what we lost last year. So, I mean, it's all new money this year. And now I got a quote just 2 hours ago, $40,000, $40,325 from, China direct move to Fargo. And it was $29,000 from China to L.A. So, I mean, it's – and when's it going to stop? It could be $50,000, $80,000, $100,000. Nobody seems to care. Nobody's doing nothing. And I walked through Target the other day. You see sections just closed in the store. You know what I mean? So Walmart, same thing. They're not going to have the money or the variety that they normally would have. And, people say, Walmart's got tons of money. No, it's
it's
they don't
a supply
realize.
side problem.
Yes.
It's like, they have plenty of money, but Walmart doesn't make the product.
Well, they don't
buy
make
the product.
They don't make it, and with the amount of money for each container, they may not want to allow that kind of money for these certain items that may not be their better sellers. So, and that's the thing we're going to see. We're going to see a lot less variety. I think in the fireworks industry, we're going to see a lot less variety, and probably maybe the same amount of cases, maybe less. And I think that's just who can afford to keep bringing these containers in at this price.
It is ridiculous. I mean, we're paying if I paid $1 for it, last year,
Yeah.
I'm paying $3.8 for it now. That's just to get it here.
To get it here.
Not to mention the fact that the exchange rate has tanked since the election.
Yes.
We were north of 7.
Yes.
And now we're at 6.4.
Yep.
So you got a 15% difference right there in the cost of acquisition of goods. Plus the factories have raised their prices by, it's a nominal, 4 to 5% overall on average. That's normal.
Yeah, their prices didn't go up. Some actually went down on some that I've seen,
But you tack that on to all these other factors, and it's a massive amount of money.
Well,
it's ridiculous.
And bottom line is, look at the freight is more than the container of fireworks.
Correct.
That's bottom line. There's no way to hide it. There's no way to disguise it. That's just it. Right now, the container costs more than the actual goods inside of it. And what you're going to start seeing is, you may see, which I've seen this for years in the general merchandise industry, people walking away from their container because the freight is more than the goods inside of it. And you're going to see a lot more of that on the general merchandise side as well as on the fireworks side. That freight comes in and you don't have it.
I've got 2 points, and one I'll make to your comment, John, on the target, and the other one's going to be for you, Ron, the banker.
There you go.
We're going to talk about that in here in a split second. We're going to bring you into this.
I'm ready.
So at Target the other night, I went with my guys to go get. All I needed to do is buy a little tube of hair gel. I mean, I forgot to pack mine, and it's
looking very good.
Yeah, I got to be dapper for these kind of things. So I walk in there, and I go over to the trial section because I'm not going to get what I really want. I have it at home.
Yeah,
I'm too cheap to go buy a whole nother tube.
And you got to carry it.
I just want a little bit, right? And I got to get on the plane with this thing, right? So I bought a little itty bitty tube. It was $2.49.
They used to be 99 cents.
Yeah.
It was 99 cents.
It's like, oh my gosh. It's like $2.49. That's what I bought the tube that was the full size. It's in my house.
Back in whenever you bought it.
Back whenever I bought it, because it's not like I use a ton of it.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit and lay the hair over and I'm done. But the second point is, Ron, from your standpoint, okay, so you're a banker. And I was there before.
Right.
And now a guy like me who's importing, 700 containers a year, who used to spend $10,000, let's just use 10 because that's an easy number.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to use round numbers here because it's late at night and I can't do advanced math, too late after cocktails. So you say, all right, so 700 times 10,000, 7 million. Okay, so I obviously have a credit line at a bank to pay for this freight because that stuff's got to be paid immediately. There's no credit on freight.
No credit on
freight
freight
lines are like, we don't float that in the industry.
Right.
This fireworks industry has lived on the credit, pay me after the fourth thing.
Yep.
Well, the shipping lines don't take payment after the fourth.
No.
That's not the way that works.
Another thing, too.
Okay, so I've got a $7 million credit line with you. Well, I got a $7 million credit line with you to cover all my containers, right? So we're good. Well, now I come to you, Mr. Banker, and I say, hey, some things have happened. Now my credit line needs to go from $7 million to $29 million.
Right. Well,
can we do that? And then you, as the banker, go totally gray and say, "Holy crap, Steve!"
Yeah. Well, the problem is the line of credit is secured by the business assets or either the inventory or the receivables, typically. And what we're talking about is cost of freight. That's just an airball. That's nothing. That's freight.
Yeah.
That's not
nothing.
inventory,
There's
and it's
nothing
not
tangible.
a receivable. You're not selling it and you're not storing it. It's nothing that we can take hold of. So no, it's just an extra added cost of doing business.
Yeah. So so what the bank has to do is they have to look at the guy like me and say, okay, we think you're literally worth an airball, $20 million.
That doesn't normally happen.
Risk.
Yeah.
That's tough to do.
And that's.
I hope you own the building and we could take a second brick on that or something.
Yeah, I mean that's what you're looking at. So
well, yeah.
when people look at like wholesale prices,
right.
from the wholesalers that are importing and bearing the brunt of all these costs up front.
And the risk.
And the risk.
Well, the risk.
And it's like, hey, we've got to protect our employees. We have to protect our enterprise.
Yep.
And, the worst part of it is right now we're getting no help out of Washington, D.C.
Not at all. No.
It's crickets out there.
Yep.
They don't care.
It doesn't even exist in their eyes. Nothing.
Well,
Everything is just,
and speaking
and
devil's advocate, and not that this isn't important because it could be very important, but he's got a lot of other stupid stuff that, whether it's Afghanistan or COVID or
well, we can't help
whatever
that.
else that he's done.
He just keeps making mistakes.
I'm not. We don't want to get political, but I'm just saying. So yeah, he's got a lot of stuff to worry about. So
he's not worrying about any of it.
Well, right.
He's not even aware of half of it.
What? He's not worrying about anything. He's not dealing with it.
Well, the country has a lot of stuff to worry about. So, but it is a very. And not just fireworks. It's a tube of hair gel. It's a gallon of milk. It's
everything.
Whatever it is, you can't get the product here, and people have money theoretically because the unemployment and the stimulus checks and all that. People have money to spend, but nothing to buy. I think if you have money and there's nothing to buy, I think technically that's stagflation, which is just as bad as inflation.
Yeah. Well, and then you have what they've coined a new term now, which is you've noticed this for years. You just haven't had a term to put it to, but they call it shrinkflation.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you remember that bottle of. No, not bottle. Let's go to a box of cereal. Mm-hmm. I went to the store the other day and I bought a box of cereal.
I think I know where you're going with this. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so I'm going to get that box of Raisin Bran.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
Wait a minute, that's a small box.
Yeah.
And it still costs what I used to pay for Raisin Bran. The only problem is I used to get 18 ounces of Raisin Bran, now I get 12.
Mm-hmm. I just learned something the other day. They make Oreo cookies smaller.
Reese's peanut butter cups too.
Is it Reese's peanut butter? Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Oreo cookies.
You're messing with the Reese's peanut butter cups.
That's unbelievable.
That's un-American.
That's sacrilege.
It's the only candy I ever ate in my life was Reese's peanut butter cup.
I still don't believe that.
Oh yeah, it's the only one I ate.
And now they're a little bitty.
And now they're even smaller.
Now when you go to the store, you walk up to the box and you're like, oh my gosh, I've gotten so much bigger because this box is so much smaller in my hands.
Yes.
I feel like I'm Jack the Giant Killer all of a sudden.
It's kind of like my T-shirts, but that's a whole nother reason.
Yeah. Okay. We can't go there.
But that's what you're starting to see. Everything is a smaller box. The most notable thing I've always saw was every can of soda came in a 24-pack. And now you're hard-pressed to find a 24-pack. It's all 12-pack. And what we're paying for the 12-pack of soda is exactly what we paid for the 24. And that started more than 5 years ago.
Yep. Or have you gone to – I saw this the other day. I go into the Walmart, and I was just walking through an aisle looking for something for my wife. They were sold out of it, of course.
Of course.
That's the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And a 12-pack of – you've seen these new like 7-ounce cans or 8-ounce cans, these little bitty things.
Yeah.
A 12-pack of those costs more than a 12-pack of regular 12-ounce cans.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
So what's up with that, America?
Yeah.
Come on.
That's silly.
I mean,
They
where are we
say,
going?
and I got a friend of mine who buys those for the boat, and they're like, well, it's easy to store. I'm like, that's right. And they're like, well, we don't want that 12-ounce can. I'm like, but you're paying more for the 7-ounce.
Yeah.
As my grandmother would tell us, throw the rest of the ounces away then if you don't want it.
But in fireworks, and here's the point, we can't shrinkflation.
No.
Because what are you going to do? You're going to take our 60-gram canisters, which is the greatest thing that the fireworks world has ever seen, and say we're going to shrink them down to 40 grams and still charge a 60-gram price? We're not going to do that.
No.
You can't do that.
No.
And
your 200-gram cake going to become a 100-gram cake?
And we can't sacrifice quality, which is what I'm afraid is going to happen. That's what I'm afraid is going to happen. I hope not.
I think the first thing that ends up getting lost is to wrap this all the way back around to the beginning is what you were talking about, John. I think, the variety is going to become a problem.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of those hard-to-make items or the time-consuming to make items, and most of these are directed towards, the kids.
The novelties,
the novelties.
Exactly.
I mean, you just can't get them.
No, I get novelties. I buy enough for 2-3 years because, that's what's going to happen. But, on another note, and your company probably wasn't affected by it because you're much larger, but back in the day, if I had half a container in space left, I would say, well, you know what, fill it up with reloadables, light box, took up a lot of space on the container. I didn't have to get 500 cases. Just give me another 200 cases of those, and we're good to go. And that was when freight was about $5,000, $4,800, you know, and it
The
went
good
to
old days.
$5,200, you know, and it wasn't too many years ago, you know. And then as it started going up, I started saying, you know what, cut that half a container off, because I didn't want to fill it up and spend $9,000 on something I really don't need. And that's what we're going to see a lot of. We're going to see that way, way more. Do I want to tie up 200 cases of chickens on a container that may sit in my warehouse for a couple of years because I may not be able to get them? I don't know if I'm going to do that this year, you know.
Yeah, and I don't think I don't think from the standpoint that if that philosophy was to be broad based across the entire industry, you're not going to get them anyway.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's going to, and we're going to see a big shrinkage of variety. We're going to see a lot of people, you know, kind of out of the wholesale game. It's going to be the best man wins, because the guy that's going to raise the most money is going to be the guy with the product, and he's going to have customers. But theoretically, I tell Ron, customer is going to come in next year with $1,000 budget, $1,500 budget, $2,000 budget, whatever, like he's normally been doing.
Yeah.
He's going to get 2/3 of the fireworks. So in theory, all we really need is 2/3 of the fireworks, because that's all your budget is going to be allowed to buy, because most of these people don't change their budget. They're just going to get less product for it. You
Like
know,
the Oreo cookies and the Coke.
yeah. So, you know, instead of,
inflation that
Yeah.
way.
you know, instead of getting, you know, instead of giving all those cases for $1,000, he's going to get less. And then in theory, we need to buy less too, because or else we're going to have a bunch of merchandise left over at a high price.
And I'm sure you feel the same way I do. Is I hate the pricing environment that we're in right now.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like it at all.
No,
I look if you look at 2018 versus now,
Yeah.
the wholesale case price is double,
Yeah.
and I hate it.
And at some,
But when you go back to that conversation about carrying
Yeah.
that freight cost,
Yeah.
I mean, you have to generate the revenue to be able to pay the bank for all that kind of stuff.
and we
You got
have
to churn and burn. You got
and
to
we have
churn
to,
it.
and we have to start generating
Yeah.
now, because we have no dollar cost averaging like I had in years previous.
Now,
Right.
That's the problem.
when you say generating now, you touched on what I think is probably the real crux of the issue and the shift in the industry right now. You know, it used to be in fireworks, you saw everybody, they would really be seasonal to seasonal on their purchases.
Yes.
Okay, and what I've advised my customers is I said, you need to stop thinking like that. Okay, don't think of guys like me as your closet.
Yeah.
Don't think of me as your storage depot. Okay, you need to become the little red hen. And this is what I've told all my customers, and I've repeated this so many times. You have to gather the items that you need for the holiday season all year long. If you don't have storage, you need to find it. You know, these people are going to have to start planning out their purchasing, because what's going to happen is, you know, this 4th of July, what we had first in the industry was 500-gram cakes. What we didn't have was fountains. We didn't have novelties. We
No
didn't
rockets.
have rockets.
No
Forget
rockets.
those.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah, right. Rockets
so
were hard to come by.
Whole
you
rocket.
had entire product line categories that you couldn't get access to. So if somebody said, okay, well, I want 500-gram cakes. Okay, I got them. I got 500-gram cakes.
Yeah.
And I was pretty good on 200 grams. I mean,
Yeah,
I could pretty
I was
much
good
give
on
them
both
200
of those,
grams
yeah.
all the way across the board, because those are items that they can manufacture quickly and in very large quantities.
Yes.
And those are also items that the factories in China now are geared to make.
And that's
They're
all they
more
want to
Because
get.
profitable for
that's,
China.
That's what they want to make.
that's
They
what
can
they
make
wanna
them
make.
fast,
Right.
and they can produce them quickly.
Easy to pack.
You know.
Yeah,
so,
boxes,
So
yep.
so those come over.
Yeah.
So okay, but now, you know, right now, okay, we sold all these 500-gram cakes past pre-4th, right?
Yeah.
So everybody got them. Okay, now a lot of people sold them because a lot of people were scared to buy too much.
Yeah.
They were hoping the freight would go down. Well, that was a bad call.
That was a bad
Yeah.
call.
You know,
I didn't make that call,
and-
by the way.
You know,
I didn't do it.
And so now what we're dealing with is I have an influx in my warehouse, very, very heavy, of pretty much everything, you know, because we're getting it after season. This was
Yeah.
all stuff that was supposed to be here
Yeah.
pre-4th.
Yep, we got the same
But
thing.
what we're not seeing is tons of novelties or things like that. So what I think is going to happen is right now we've got the 500 grams, we got the fountains, you know, we're getting the rockets. Buy those now.
Yes.
Now, the customers are going to have to, instead of buying those in, say, April or May, they need to buy them now, and then they need to store them because they can get them now. And then come next spring, hopefully these novelties and some of this other stuff will backfill in that was due, and then they pick that up then, so that by the time they get to the 4th, guess what? They have the whole smattering of product as best they can get it. And if they don't do it now, if they don't start this philosophy now,
oh yeah,
they come in, next April. We were sold out technically on book as of June 4th of this year for everything that we were expected to get in and everything we had in the warehouse.
Yep.
So on June 4th, I told my sales staff, I said, at this point, guys, I said, you're not fireworks salesmen, you're grief counselors.
Yeah, exactly.
Because what's going to happen is people are going to come in and they're going to say, here's my order, and guess what? We're going to have 10% or as of June 4th, we were technically sold out. All I had to sell to people was punk.
Wow.
Now, can you imagine, a fireworks wholesaler that ships nationally?
Yeah.
When you call them on June 4th and you say, well, we have punk.
Yeah.
I mean, it's embarrassing, but it's the situation that we were faced with. So now people have to gather this stuff all year round, because if you want to plan on coming in at the onset of the season when people normally bought, go back 5 years, that's the way it worked, and it worked just fine.
Yes.
But what wholesalers now are looking at, and frankly, my wife, she kind of conked me over the head and she goes, oh, finally, after 15 years, you're going to have an 8 to 5 job? Mm-hmm. Because we should theoretically be shipping every single day. And we are shipping tons and tons of product right now because we have it. And people don't want to get caught without.
Exactly.
So by the time we get into what used to be our crazy season, where we were working 24/7 and working 18, 20-hour days per person, we're not going to need it. We've already done the work in September, October, November, December.
Right.
And so now all we have to do in June is ship novelties.
But here's a big problem with that, and this is why it works for some, it doesn't work for all, because we have a lot of people, and I will say second generation in the fireworks industry, that their fathers would come in and buy from me in September and October because they knew I'm going to China. What do you want to clear out? I know you want to make some more room in your warehouse for new stuff you're bringing in. What kind of deals you got going, and pay with cash money. The second generation comes along and they want to pick it up May 26th. They want to charge it and they want to pay for it July 5th, and this way they pay no interest. I had a customer call me up and he says, no, I want my order. I'm going to place my order right now, July 10th. I said, okay. Places an order. I says, okay, how'd you like to pay for that? He says, what do you mean pay for it? I says, well, I don't know what you're telling. He goes, well, you always give me credit. I give you credit in May until July. I'm not giving you credit from July to July. I need to turn and burn. But this is the problem we face. A lot of people come in here with, oh yeah, I'm going to order early. But then when you ask them for the money, then all of a sudden it changes. Yeah. And I purchased my fireworks in April of this year for next year. And I told some of these companies, I have not even received one container from you yet, and I'm already placing the orders for 2022. I mean, it's pretty bad, Mm-hmm. I placed an order for, 200 cases something. I got 150 cases after the 4th of July. So technically I don't need those 200 cases, but I don't dare cut them off because, you know what I mean?
You got to keep them manufacturing.
Going. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, look at all the firecrackers I bought that didn't make it for the season. I got that plus all the ones I already ordered. It's already on the books. So, but getting the people to pay for it now is one thing to gather it, and a lot of people will do it, but they're going to have to take responsibility too. Go get your home equity lines, go get your bank lines, and come to see me with the money. And I told them it's turn and burn because China's doing the same thing. You want to pay for the container now? We'll ship it now. If you're not going to pay, you're on the back burner.
And if you want to get your production going on overseas, you got to
pay.
pay.
All over, yeah.
You got to pay.
And what I touched on earlier, you're seeing that from freight companies. Freight companies want a deposit because they don't want to lock up container space unless, they want almost like a prepayment of the freight. And I'm seeing that on a couple of them. Yeah. Because if the they're going to give it to the person that pays first. I mean, that's basically what's going on.
Yeah. We've entered a new realm of business transaction in this industry where it is cash on the barrelhead. I mean, we're going to go old school on terms.
Yeah.
And it is the guy with the green. He gets it.
Cash is
he
king.
gets the
I've always
product.
said it.
Right.
The guy that is on credit.
But
he's
going
to be in trouble.
But no matter who you are, there's only so much green when you start talking about double the cases. And now China's even worried. Not China, but the manufacturers are worried because they feel that they're not going to get paid because they realize that the freight is more than a container. So now they're worried about, before they give me and you credit, well, they know if we're spending all our money on freight, how much is for them? I had an email today. Says, can you send me some money? I know it's, mid-autumn's coming up. I know you got a lot of money tied up in freight, but I can really use some money. So I'm like, sure, we'll send you some. But how many times can we go to that same well?
Right.
And
can't
pay everybody.
It's this industry has changed so dynamically in the last 2 years. I mean, it has undergone a fundamental transformation. I mean, in the way that this industry transacts business.
Yeah.
And I wish we could go back to 5 years ago, but we're not there.
No,
and it's not going to happen.
And I don't know if
we're not getting any kind of trade help out of the DC.
Nope.
It's pretty much mum's the word.
Let me ask you this: what can our government do? And I had this conversation with a few people. What can our government do? Because none of these shipping lanes are owned by American companies. What leverage do we have?
Yeah. Well, the only leverage that we have
is to say no.
Is for
supply and demand.
The U.S. government's got to get it into international diplomacy.
Yeah.
I mean, the United States of America is the number one consumer in the world.
Yeah.
And the reason we are is because we're the most successful nation in the world. We have the most discretionary income.
Yeah, disposable income,
I mean, we are the king of the consumer in the world, and that's why the world makes for us.
But if we keep buying,
whether it's fireworks or entertainment
it's anything.
or anything.
But if we keep buying because we keep buying, and they only respond to no. We don't need it.
Yeah. What we need is for the politics side, and this is where the NFA really has cut itself a nice niche in the whole thing. We have that voice. And we're pushing, we've been pushing, consistently, through the container expediting program that we did in April, March to April that we launched after the meetings that we talked about earlier.
Basically drop ship, basically.
Yeah,
right?
It was, what it was it was a way to get stuff moving through the pipeline.
Right.
It was to unclog the stool, so to speak.
Yeah. Right.
And we were pretty successful in that. I mean, we didn't get 100% of everything. We didn't. All we wanted was to say, if we got one extra one through, it was worth the effort.
It was worth the effort.
Okay, now we got well more than one through.
Yeah.
We got hundreds.
Yeah.
It was a successful venture. It took a lot of time and a lot of work.
Yeah.
But now the conversation has continued on, and it started back then, but it's molded and shifted and melded into a new conversation of, we need Washington's involvement in this problem.
Right,
and not only for our industry, but for any industry, like you said, John. I mean,
everything.
It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a semiconductor chip or anything else. And believe me, we're not the only industry that's feeling this, and there are industries that are 1,000 times our size that are screaming this same thing. But still, it's crickets out of Washington. I mean, nothing is happening. It's disgraceful.
It is.
So the point is that the NFA has to join, in the voice for our industry, just as all these other industries are coming in and saying, hey, this is unacceptable. The manufacturers may have, a person could say, okay, well, we've been buying this stuff cheap, for so many years. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But multiplying the price of the freight by 4,
you can't.
and doing that kind of stuff, that's out of whack. And believe me, the freight lines, the ships are there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, all of the capacity is there. The system is just not working right now. I mean, keep in mind, the ships haven't declined.
No.
The containers haven't declined. The problem is the way the whole system is working around the world with the COVID effect. Is it's just jammed it all up. So the stuff is not moving the way it should. And I understand how, the shipping lines could, want some more money.
Yeah.
I mean,
who doesn't?
I can
they're
understand.
sitting out there idling for
I can
weeks,
understand, but, to an extent, when you say, okay, we went from 9,600, a year ago.
Yeah.
And then, come this early spring, we were sitting somewhere around 18 grand. It's like, okay, we thought, it's like, God, that's so much, but I could at least understand where they were coming from. Well, now we've doubled that number over again, and now we're to a point where it's just simply an unacceptable number.
$13,000 surcharge.
Is that how they justify it, by saying our ships are sitting out at the sea and idling for 2 weeks?
That's a big cost.
Is that
that's
how they justify
it?
Huge expense of it. But now if you get, I should look on my phone, 'cause one of my contacts in Singapore sent me video footage of all the empty container ships just docked in Singapore, not even being used. See, that's a controlled shortage right there. That's a controlled shortage, and there's tons of them out there.
And there is.
Yes.
And, part of it is there was a big, it happened this past summer, and they were talking about, and you saw it on the national news, where they were talking about how the agricultural guys here in the States were screaming about the fact that they couldn't get containers to export the grain goods to the other countries. Well, the problem was this. The container lines were saying, no, you can get the container, but we're going to charge $25,000 for the container. Well, the agricultural people, the whatever powers they were, or whatever entity that was that groups that together and does the negotiating, was saying, well, we only want to pay 12. So they said, well, then we'll pass on that, and we will ship those ships loaded with containers, empty, back to China.
Yep.
It's not going to cost them near the fuel cost.
Yeah, no.
Okay, they're empty.
Yes.
Okay, so the whole ship is a buoyant object at this point.
Yeah.
It's air. It goes back overseas, where they are now loading containers to bring goods in, and then they're charging $25,000, $30,000. So the guy that wanted to pay 12 to export his goods
now has to pay 25 to get it back.
Well, guess what? When you're saying they wanted to pay 12, well, they know that the container's worth 25 on the other side if they just get it back there.
Right.
So they said, no, thank you, and it went back over for nothing. Right. But when it came back over on the export from the other side, they charged double the price. So they got not only the 12 that these guys were negotiating for, but they got the 12 plus 1,000 on the export goods. So why wouldn't they bring them back empty?
Bring them back empty.
Yeah, what the heck?
I mean,
and
so what's happened is they have set the market on the pricing. And if you want your stuff to move, that's what it's going to cost. And, in our industry, this is what we're faced with. A lot of people say, well, bring it back to America, do the manufacturing here. Well,
can't do it.
Here's the problem. You can't manufacture it in the United States.
No.
Because we have too many EPA regulations. We have way too many OSHA regulations that are, frankly, out of whack.
Yes.
I'm going to say that they're overboard.
Yeah.
And so now what we've actually started doing as an industry, and I've started doing this, is looking to South America. Because South America, while their goods always cost more to produce, if we're not paying $40,000 to ship the container, hey, guess what? The pricing starts to look much more attractive. And now we don't have to boat it. We can just truck it.
Well, it's the same with the products in Beihai compared to Luoyang at one time. Beihai was always more expensive, but the freight was cheaper, so it kind of balanced out.
It averaged out. Yeah. It worked out.
It worked out.
But now it's, by going to South America, it sounds great. And everybody says, why don't we just do it all in Mexico? Well, the problem is capacity.
Yeah.
If you have, and they can make good fireworks in Mexico. Okay, I'm not going to debate that.
Yeah.
But they can only produce a fraction of the volume that we need.
Yes.
So, I've talked to some factories down there, good factories that make good product.
Yeah.
And I could buy that product and I could get it here. And I say, well, okay, so what's your annual production capacity? And, we say, okay, so a 4-to-1 500-gram cake, right? They say, well, our factory could make 10,000 cases of that a year.
Yeah. That's 2 containers. I mean, that's 5 containers.
10 containers.
Yeah, 10 containers,
Okay.
500-gram cake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Earlier I said I import 700 containers. Okay.
Yeah.
they can do 10.
Right.
Yeah.
That doesn't get us very far.
No.
And the problem is that you can't just instantly create that capacity that you need.
That's years away.
Years,
Yeah.
5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah. Easy.
And people say, well, just go down there and build more factories. Well, who's going to pay for that?
Yeah.
So now what you're talking about is, okay, so you capital investment.
Yeah.
Okay. The problem is you're doing capital investment in a foreign country where you can't technically own it. You just lease it for 100 years, right?
99 years.
And that's pretty much how it works in Mexico. I think it's about a 99, 100-year type deal.
Yep. Exactly. 99-year trust.
So you go down there and you do that, and okay, well, 99 years, I'll die before that ever reaches maturity.
Yep.
But, now one of the other questions was they said, can you get us chemicals? Mm-hmm. We have a problem procuring the chemicals. So now what you're saying is, okay, so I have to be the buyer
and a supplier,
and I have to also be the raw materials supplier.
Yeah. Where are those going to come from?
How does that all work out? Well, guess what? The raw materials are going to come from
China. Exactly. So it's like the ethanol plant in Hankinson, North Dakota, next to my gas station. Ethanol's here, the corn's here. But to refine it, you got to take it from Hankinson, North Dakota, and move it to California. By the time you do all that, you've exceeded a gallon of gas. So that was the end of that. That was the end of the ethanol. Now, technically, if you want the ethanol plant here, put the refinery here, and then it's a no-brainer. But they only do a portion of everything to show us it doesn't work. And that's exactly what's going on.
I mean, we're at a stage in the fireworks industry where there's a lot of questions to be asked and answered.
And we're also at, I'm not going to say our lowest volume, but we're at a low point of buyers, but they're bigger buyers. But we're not getting new generations of people buying fireworks. It's been a dying industry. I've seen it over and over in years. But you have the guy that comes in our store, he spends a lot more money. Before you had a lot of people spending a little bit of money. Now you got less people spending bigger money. But, that's...
Do you really believe that?
Off. Oh, yeah.
You don't think...
Yeah.
I mean...
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I mean, last year was such a good year in 2019.
And what was my prediction on the podcast? I says people cannot gather. They cannot go to town shows. I said, remember, we're all talking. I says, if every family comes in and spends just $20 like they did back in the 60s and the 70s, it would be a phenomenal year. And it worked out that way. And that's the thing. Years ago, there wasn't all these rules, regulations, cul-de-sacs, townships, counties, cities. I mean, it's so much, everybody, you look at all the old movies back in the 60s and 70s, you see 4th of July, the kids running with some type of firework. I mean, and that's how it was. There's families that don't let their kids play with any fireworks. That wasn't the case when we were growing up. Everybody on the block had something,
Oh, yeah.
And all those places in your area, you're going down that belt from, Chicago down to Florida and the Sheltons and all that. People, Dad, fireworks. And every car, they were open 24 hours in off season.
You bought it like you bought a Coke.
And sometimes you didn't light that firework off for 4 months and 500 miles away. And if it was a dud, oh well. You don't have that anymore. So you have big buyers, but you have less. You have less people buying. And now we're faced with a big shortage of industry. And I've said it before in the newspaper industry. It's a habit. You get people out of the habit of buying fireworks. I've seen it in Florida when they had the droughts or the burn bans. You get people out of the habit of buying fireworks, and it just dies off. 2020 was a great surge for the fireworks industry, which we needed it, and we saw how it carried over to this year. But it's only a matter of time with the shortage that will go back.
Yeah, we have to maintain that upside.
Yes.
And the supply problem is completely counterproductive. It's opposite of our goal.
I mean, and then if we times the price up by 3,
nobody's going to want to buy them.
The times up by 3 in the retail world, forget that. You can't do that math.
No, but I'm saying look at the price of the wholesale case gone up now. I mean, you're talking about over 2 times, in recent years.
Yeah, but like on the retail side, you
Yeah.
know, I mean, I was explaining this, in a hypothetical to somebody today. I said, if you used to buy an item for $10, the standard, fireworks rule of thumb,
Yeah.
so they could cover overhead and
Yeah.
rental costs and everything, because that's a big portion of their expenses, not only of their inventory, but they have to have all this other stuff and their permits and their licenses, and they got to have CDLs, and it's a lot more expensive than people think. It's not just like a guy bought something and put it on the shelf and was like, hey, I'm making tons of money. It's a different thing. A lot of people think that fireworks are marked up so incredibly large, but frankly they're not.
Not like it used to be.
They're not even marked up. Not even 5 years ago were they marked up that much more than when somebody went to Walmart and bought a can of green beans.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't understand. They just see the number and they think, well, this guy didn't. He marked this up 10%. No, he didn't.
Yeah.
But on the fireworks side, here's the number.
Yeah.
But now what's happened is, if you had an item that you paid $10 for, okay, in your retail stand, say 2 years ago. 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm not saying 5.
Yeah.
I'm saying 2.
2.
I mean, this is just flip the page. 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it cost you $10, and you sold it for $30.
Yeah.
Okay. So you made, on a per piece basis, $20.
Yeah.
Okay. That was your operating, that was your gross profit. Now
Yeah.
you got to take out all your other costs, and,
Yeah.
and maybe you make $10 on it,
Yeah.
right? So you make what you paid for it.
Yep.
Okay, but let's just go with the 20
Yeah.
for the illustrated purposes. Okay, so that was a 3 times mark up.
Yeah.
And anything to do with margin, 'cause most
Yeah.
retails, they just multiply.
Yeah.
So now they're paying $20 for that item. Okay,
Yeah.
well, a 3 times is 60. You can't go from 30 to 60 and live.
No.
Okay, so why don't you just go 2 1/4?
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're going to sell it for $45.
$45. Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
but here's the deal. You made $25 on the item as opposed to 20.
Yes. Mhm.
So people need to start understanding the mathematics of this, and the industry has moved into the point where the retail pricing model of old is gone.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
In this environment with these freight charges, it's gone.
Yeah.
But you mark it up much less, you're still making, on an actual gross profit basis, more.
More. Yes.
Okay, and that accounts for it. Even in, somebody says, well, if I have to charge 45 versus 30, I'm going to lose sales. Okay, well, let's say you have 20% less sales. Okay, well, guess what? Our 25 just went to 20. We're the same place we were.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to understand that, but you got to keep your market. You got to keep your customers.
And you
coming
better
in.
not overbuy.
And well, you don't want to overbuy, but even at that point, we're accounting for a 20% shrink.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so even if they did overbuy by 20%, theoretically, mathematically,
They're even. Yeah.
So they're going to be at the same place they were 2 years ago when the prices were far less.
Yeah.
So it requires the retailer to do a lot more math and a lot more analysis on how they're going to do their pricing. It's not the simple 3 times deal.
No. No.
You have to be sophisticated enough to understand that.
They're really going to have to start thinking about it.
Yeah.
And as wholesalers, on my side, we go to the next level to try to explain this to customers. Theoretically, philosophically, mathematically, you point it out, you kind of walk through the math, and you kind of say this, okay, now if the container prices were to ebb and come down, which I think ultimately they will.
Oh, they're going to, but it's
But it's not going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be until after the first of the year. I mean, we're in the heart of the Christmas season now, so that's
they
still
raised
a
the
mess.
surcharges $13,000 right now for peak season surcharge. 13 grand.
It's ridiculous.
Changed September 1st.
So, we're not going to see that anytime soon. But if there ever is a point where that starts to go down, they could literally fall back into the 3 times multiple and find themselves at the same price they sold it to. They could still mark it up more.
Yeah.
Because you could go from year to year. So it's going to require some patience and some math on behalf of the standard retailer. Fireworks people are very resilient types.
Right.
We usually seem to adapt and
Adapt
to other things, and we
Right.
get through.
Yeah.
So right now what we're having to adapt to is a pricing model that is completely foreign to us for the most part. If we can adapt to that for the time being, and hopefully, the world can get back on its right ship.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get back to an older understanding, but it's going to require a lot of work.
It's going to require a lot of work and a lot of money.
It's exhausting.
A lot of money.
What
And that's going to be the hardest part.
What about employees? Have you had a problem with employees like most people do?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's.
Do you have over 100 employees?
You've got your corn. Nope. I don't have to go into the mandatory vaccination discussion.
Okay.
I'm out of that one.
All right.
That's we don't even want to go there. That's absolutely
Just hard to.
that's dictatorship.
You
at that
can't
point.
even,
Here's how I look at it. Okay, so the Democratic Party says, well, you have to do this, so they're basically going to force you to do it, saying you have no right to your human body. Okay, they've said we are in charge of your body. So where's their defense on the abortion discussion at that point?
Well, right, yeah.
The whole abortion discussion rests on your body is your body. The government has no business being involved in your body.
Right.
Okay, fine. If you're going to force that down my throat with your abortion tactics, then when it comes to the vaccination, you know what? My body's my body.
Yeah.
Go to hell.
Yeah. It's going to be.
That's what I'm going to say.
It's going to be a tough one. Yeah, it's going to be a real tough one.
Have you had problems with employees, John?
Not this year, not so bad. But we did raise the hourly wage for everybody.
So did we.
And I kept everybody working despite, like you said, yours technically sold out June 4th. What we're doing, we're washing trucks, we're washing down the driveway, we're spraying off the UTVs, we're changing shell for doing racking because I promised these guys a lot of hours. They work for me because they know they can make a lot of money in a short season. We feed them, they live there, so. I couldn't let them go.
We kept everybody working.
I did too.
And I'll tell you, the one thing that I had this year that I saw that I was particularly enthused about the staff that I had was I had a lot of return employees.
Yeah.
And we actually operated this past season with fewer employees, but well-experienced employees, and we got everything done.
For you? Do you need him? No.
I don't know. Some guy with a badge just walked in the room. I'm going to ignore.